The Montreal Protocol is a treaty that was agreed to on the 16th of September in 1987 to address the substances that deplete the ozone layer. Since its implementation, the ozone hole has been slowly recovering and is projected to return to 1980s levels by 2070. It has been referred to as the single most successful international agreement and is a rare example of what can be achieved when countries work together towards a common goal for the environment.
Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act provides for federal regulation of pesticide distribution, sale, and use. Before EPA may register a pesticide, the applicant must show that using the pesticide will not generally cause unreasonable adverse effects on the environment.
97% of Bangladesh's population depends on groundwater. Unfortunately, most of the groundwater is naturally contaminated with arsenic, with the heaviest contamination in the southern region. 43,000 people die each year from arsenic poisoning, and this problem has been known for 20 years. The government has been heavily criticized in the response in prevention and treatment.
Population increases have led to resource diminishment and an increase in competitive stress on basic resources. In a study by the UNEP Global Environmental Outlook, every person requires a third more land than the plant can supply.
DDT is an extremely controversial pesticide that was used mainly to combat malarial mosquitoes during and after World War II. While it effectively killed pests, it biomagnified in the food chain, ending up in humans. It reduced malaria, while at the same time it wreaked havoc on other parts of the environment as well.
Everyone in the United States has been exposed to chlordane, a man-made pesticide that was used from the late 40s to late 80s. It was mostly used in the soil around homes to kill termites in the 80s, but was also used on farmland in the 1960s where it would remain in the soil for 20 years. It was phased out in 1988 after it was found to build up in body fats and cause cancer.
Western black rhinos once roamed Central and Western Africa and the African savannas. During the first half of the 20th century, sports hunting, industrial agriculture, and traditional Chinese medicine dwindled their numbers. Through strict laws in the latter half of the 20th century, their numbers rebounded. Unfortunately, illegal poaching for the rhino's ivory tusks devastated the western black rhinos to the point of extinction in 2011.
POP are chemicals used in pesticides that remain in the environment for long periods of time and accumulate in fatty tissues of living organisms and have a harmful impact on human health. VOCs are used in gas, cleaning, and painting. They can be harmful to the health of humans and create photochemical smog.
The purpose of the Stockholm Environmental Law is to contribute to a sustainable development at the national and international level for the protection of human health as well as the environment. This law covers research as well as education.
Without fresh water, there's no life. Through overuse of water for unnecessary uses and the pollution of perfectly good water, we humans have successfully depleted a large portion of the world's fresh water. Greed is the fuel that feeds this fire.
The Baiji River dolphin has lived for 20 million years. Within a few decades, it has gone from a secure population to extinct, the first extinction of a large mammal species in 50 years, and it could have been avoided. It was led by the industrialization of China in the 1950s and an unsustainable bycatch of fisheries alongside habitat degradation.
Poaching is illegal all throughout Africa, but has been on the rise since 2007 due to the lucrative ivory trade. Elephants and rhinos are the most heavily targeted animals, leading to the extinction of several species. Luckily, there has been a pushback against poaching with the creation of reserves, and in some cases, continual armed guard of animals, and this has led to the increase of animal population.
Julia Butterfly Hill wanted to bring attention of preventing clear-cutting of ecologically significant forests. She lived in a tree for 2 years. She sought to prevent the deforestation, draw media's attention to PL's disregard for the environment, and educate the public about the role forests play in stabilizing hillsides.
Mirex is an organochloride that was used as an insecticide specifically for controlling fire ants. It was eventually banned after it was discovered that the compounds would accumulate in an organism as it progressed up the food chain and would interfere with estrogen-mediated functions in the body.
In 1962, Rachel Carson wrote Silent Spring, telling the story of synthetic DDT destroying populations, including bald eagles. This led to a DDT outlaw. Bald eagles grow to 14 pounds with an 8-foot wingspan. In 1963, 417 nesting pairs still lived in the lower 48. Now more than 9,700 pairs live in the lower 48.
A changing environment can lead to a shortage of resources, leaving an estimated 3.7 billion people malnourished. This leads to a susceptibility to disease, and combined with the reality of a planet overpopulation and lack of access to health care, the potential for an increased possibility of epidemics and pandemics is created.
In countries with the fastest growing population, they also have some of the lowest life expectancies on average. This is mostly due to a lack in clean water and food, leading to malnutrition and decreased quality of life. This was common in England before the Industrial Revolution. Once the Industrial Revolution hit, the quality of life increased, leading to an increase in life expectancy as well.
Increased global warming and climate change is due to the buildup of human-generated greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Climate change is a result of global warming. Human activity, most notably over the past century, has led to a rapid increase in the global average surface temperature due to greenhouse gases released by burning fossil fuels and cutting down trees.
Roosevelt, being a sport hunter, noticed the decimation of bison in the United States as well as the loss of elk, deer, and other game. Roosevelt, to preserve the life in the wild, established 150 national forests, 51 federal bird reserves, 4 national game preserves, and 5 national parks.
The ivory-billed woodpecker is one of the world's largest woodpeckers at about 20 inches long and 30 inches in wingspan. It is an endangered species. Native to southeast U.S., it is likely on the very edge of extinction. Sightings become rarer with time.
Wangari Maathai was a Kenyan environmentalist who became the first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize. She founded the Green Belt movement and had trees planted to combat erosion, create firewood, and provide jobs for women. She mingled with people in the slums, heads of state, and provided help to over 900,000 women.
Exposure to lead-tainted water can cause long-term health impacts. It is an irreversible neurotoxin. It creates psychological and physical damages.
Genetically modified crops can be beneficial due to their resistance to insects, high crop yields, as well as a tolerance to herbicides and environmental changes. A report by PBS stated that GMOs pose more of a problem to agriculture if maintenance practices are not followed.
Rare earth metals are non-renewable resources that consist of the 15 lanthanides and scandium and yttrium. The metals are actually quite plentiful, however they are dispersed and not found in economically exploitable deposits. These metals are quite common in electronics, so as the quantity decreases, we will have to find more materials to replace them.
In the 1960s, the public waged war on toxic chemicals in America. A lack of regulation on air quality had created toxic environments around factories that had obvious effects on human health and the environment. The Clean Air Act of 1970 is arguably the most influential piece of legislation regarding air quality ever.
After being selected to run the EPA by Donald Trump, Scott Pruitt steered the agency away from environmental concerns towards business interests with a focus on deregulation. In direct contradiction to his own administration's stance, he has stated that he does not agree that carbon dioxide is a primary contributor to global warming. Even though he faces numerous accusations of corruption and abuses his office, he remains in his position and is championed by a president who has called global warming a Chinese hoax.
The western black rhinoceros roam southeast region of the continent of Africa. They were declared extinct in 2011 due to overpoaching.
The Clean Water Act, first proposed in 1948, with amendments finally coming about in 1972, is the government's primary federal law governing water pollution. The Act created a building block for the regulation of pollutant discharge into the waters and regulating quality standards for surface waters.
Pyrenean ibex is a now extinct subspecies of ibex that roam the Iberian Peninsula. They were common in the Cantabrian Mountains, southern France, and northern Pyrenees. This species went extinct January of 2000.
Sick building syndrome is when a group of people are exposed to pollutants in a common building. It is very common for buildings to be constructed from toxic materials, and these materials unfortunately become particulates in the air and end up being breathed in. Poor ventilation only escalates the problem.
Normal rain has a slightly acidic pH of around 5.6 because of the presence of carbon dioxide. Burning fossil fuels can result in more acidic rain though because byproducts of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides are released into the atmosphere where they react with water and oxygen to form acids that fall to the ground or in lakes and streams, contaminating entire ecosystems.
Paul Ralph Ehrlich is an American biologist and professor at Stanford University. Ehrlich's main focus of attention was in the idea of overpopulation and limited resources. His book, The Population Bomb, written in 1968, theorized that the human population would increase to the point of mass starvation.
Environmental satellites are used to help monitor atmospheric phenomena that are essential for weathering forecasting, measuring greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, and can capture high-resolution images across the atmosphere, lands, and ocean, leading to better predictions.
Los Angeles has reached a new high in environmental pollution due to the elevated levels of ozone located in the area. Ozone is a highly reactive molecule and can damage the respiratory tract when breathing, as well as crops and other forms of vegetation.
Carbon dioxide is a well-known greenhouse gas. It is far less harmful than methane, but nonetheless harmful. The U.S. Geological Survey estimates that human activities release over 130 times the carbon dioxide emitted by volcanoes, both subaerial and submarine.
The frac in fracking is a reference to how rocks within the Earth's surface are fractured, allowing trapped gas to flow to the surface. Fracking has revolutionized the energy industry in the United States and resulted in lower gas prices but still remains controversial. This is because it extends the reliance on fossil fuels, risks the potential of pollution incidents, and disrupts the transition to renewable energy.
Polychlorinated dibenzofurans are found in byproducts of various industrial processes. They are known mutagens and carcinogens. Biphenyls, in general, are used as electrical insulators, dielectric fluids, and as specialized hydraulic fluid.
The Suwannee River sturgeon is a threatened species native to the Gulf of Mexico and some of the rivers that drain into it, such as the Suwannee River. These fish can leap out of the water and have been known to injure boaters and have been reported to have killed a 5-year-old girl.